Hi everybody, thanks for tuning into the Homesteads YouTube channel. On today's episode we're going to talk about feeding your bees. So if you've been following along on the channel, this is the third attempt we've had at buying bees, and you might be asking yourself, why would I watch a video on a guy who has had to purchase bees 3 times? Well, we've actually had a really unfortunate series of events that really were out of our control. Maybe last year's a little different, but the first year we bought a new colony, 4 frames, and it did excellently. We fed it, we put it in a great spot, and the colony boomed. We got maybe 3-4 liters of honey out of the box and left them at least 12 to 15 frames full to overwinter. And the problem was that spring a couple years ago, it was really hot and cold, so there was days where it was almost 20 degrees Celsius, and the next day it would drop down to -5, -6, up to 12 the day after, down to -10 the day after that. I mean, it was just the most erratic spring ever, and I believe that 70% of hives at some apiaries were lost in the province, and it was a province-wide phenomenon. So it was a really bad year for beekeeping. Last year I wanted to try again. So I bought another new colony. It was 4 frames. There's a hornet. And anyways, the queen just wasn't very strong, so they never expanded outside the first box, and that was a rookie mistake as well. It's a lesson I've learned, and the reason I keep making these videos is so that I hope you don't make the same mistakes if this is something you're interested in. So yeah. It just, they never even filled up the first box. There was never an opportunity to add a second box. I fed them. It was just a weak queen. She didn't lay well, and if I had been a more seasoned beekeeper at that point, I would have recognized that it was the queen that was at fault and introduced a new queen. So that was an expensive lesson as well. But anyways, so year 3, here we go. And this year, instead of buying a 4-frame colony, I wanted to just invest a little bit more money and really ensure that they have the best chance at survival. So I picked these up last night. I transferred them into a new box. Really, you don't want to be messing around with them too much in the first week or 2 that you get them. They want to get acclimatized and used to your region, and well, you don't want to kill the queen either, but I mean, there's a few reasons to just kind of leave them alone at first. But I think that feeding them right now trumps leaving them alone, and the risks associated with that. So I guess I get going here. The top cover, nobody in there. And there's a few guys on there. Not too many though. It's a warm day. And transferring them last night, they were quite friendly. I transferred them into a more solid box that I built myself, instead of the plywood box that they came in that would really absorb a lot of moisture. But anyways, so last night, I paid more and I got 9-frame colonies, what I was trying to get at before. So instead of 4 frames, it's more than double. It's 9 frames, and they have brood, they have honey, and they have a queen, and the colony basically is very strong. So to strengthen them more, there is pollen around available for them. It's June 4th here, everywhere. And I bought this 1 pound of pollen, which I did the first year, and the colony exploded. Going into winter, into fall, there must have been 50 or 60,000 bees. I couldn't even access the bottom box. It was 3 boxes, and the bottom box would have, you know, 3-4 inches of bees covering the whole thing by the time I was getting to it. If you go back and look at some of the old videos, you can see just how strong that colony was. So I took half of the pollen, which is protein, which the larvae want, and it will reduce the amount of foraging that the current bees have to do. And I've laid that right on top, which is what you're going to want to do. Now I'm going to feed them some syrup, which is very easy to make. It's 1 part sugar to 2 parts water. So I pre-mixed it, 2 cups of sugar, 4 cups of water. I've shaken it up lots. There's no sediment left in the bottom, and you'll notice I took a frame out. So I considered putting this feeder frame on the outside, but it's going to rain and it's going to dilute the solution. Maybe it'll attract animals, knock it over, and just not really a good idea. But basically it's a bucket that's a little wider than a traditional frame, holds about 3 liters of fluid. It has this wood top and it has 2 tubes that descend down inside, and it's perforated so that the bees can crawl down inside and basically lap up the sugar water. So quick and easy. Gonna pour these 2 jars inside this frame, and then this frame's gonna go right inside the box. So you'll notice that I added a second box last night, and you don't want to add a second box until the first box is filled, and this first box is full. I mean, there's no room for them to go anywhere. It's either full of honey or full of brood when I inspected it last night, and there's no room really for her to lay more eggs, and I don't want them to swarm, so I added the second box on the top. So that's it. No fear of this spilling inside, killing the queen or hurting the colony at all. I'm just going to slowly slide it in here. Try not to squish anybody. You don't want to move too quick so that you don't upset anybody. And now I'll just grab you. I'm going to take you over. You can have a peek and just see what's happening here. So there were no bees. It's really hard with the lighting to see properly. There were no bees obviously in the top at all. I added another 9 frame box on top. You can see the pollen here, and now you can see that these 2 little sections here are ready to go for them to feed.